All right, let me do some introductions. So we are going to be joined by four mentors, but one of the mentors is currently mentoring. So she will be with us in half an hour towards the end of the session. So we have three lovely mentors to start with. So we have the wonderful Ellen Horgan. Welcome, Ellen.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Yes, lovely to see you, Ellen. Ellen's going to be representing the Diploma in Silver Jewelry, which is the first year-long silver jewelry making course that we had and still have. Then we have the wonderful Anelia Caprina. Welcome, Anelia.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. It's lovely to see you. And Anelia is representing the Advanced Jewelry Diploma. So we skipped a year. That's our year three course. The year two is going to be Barbara Yard. She will be here in just a little bit time. And then we have the wonderful Vicky Ralph. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Jess. Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here.
Yes, lovely to see you. I like to see the kiln in the background as well. Nice
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so Vicky is going to be representing the diploma in silver metal clay, and this is the first year that we've done that course, so it'll be exciting to hear about how the mentoring's been going and the students on there as well. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. But in the meantime, I'm going to be grilling the mentors. Let's see who. So Anna's here from Edinburgh. Anna is our community manager, so she is joining in the chat. Ellen is here from Bristol. We've got Samia, who is here from Southampton, who is an absolute beginner. You're very welcome. We love beginners here. Petra is here from South Africa, Cape Town. Amazing. Lovely to have you, Petra. Denise is here from the Midwest. Michelle is here from the Isle of Wight. Hannah's joining from Cambridgeshire and she's thinking about signing up for a diploma. Awesome. Lovely to have you, Hannah. Rachel is here as well. She signed up for a diploma. We've got Colgit from Kent who signed up for the diploma in starting September. There's lots of you guys. It's awesome. I won't read them all out, but thank you so much for being here and hopefully you will learn a bit more today. So I reckon we should start with the Diploma in Silver Jewelry because that was the first course we created. But I'm going to kind of skip around the mentors and come back to them. And like I said, if you've got anything, especially to go through that you want to ask a specific mentor or to put to all of them, please do just get involved. That's absolutely fine. So Ellen, maybe you could start off by sharing just a bit about how the mentoring works and how you interact with the students. And I guess this will be the same for all the diplomas, but particularly on the diploma in silver jewelry.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's probably one of the extra special things about these diplomas is that you do get time with a mentor who's a jewelry professional to support you through the course. So the way it works is that each mentor, I'm talking just about the fine diploma, so I think maybe the numbers are slightly different in the other diplomas, but I have a group of 16 students and we meet every fortnight via Zoom. So I had a call with my students this morning and we talk about the projects that they've been working on. So normally we'll cover two projects, but some projects take 2 weeks. So we might go a bit more in depth to those slightly more complex ones. And it's just really a chance to catch up with everyone, see how they're getting on, see if people have got specific questions about what they're working on, if they've got stuck, or if they maybe want to share how they've got on and maybe some tips for others. I think the thing that you realize if you're particularly slightly different, if you're already making jewelry, but particularly if you haven't made before and you're joining us for the silver diploma, is that there's lots of different ways of doing things. So it's really valuable being able to share some of that stuff because people can share what's worked for them and different ways of looking at things. So that's that. We then also have a one-to-one during the term. So that's just, I'll just be talking direct to a student and they have up to an hour to, again, chat through anything really, projects they've been working on where they've got stuck. And it just gives us a chance to get to know each other a bit more and to also go a bit more in depth. And then every term we also have a marking one-to-one. So the way that they work, obviously they're slightly staggered. So we start with the marking one-to-ones in the second term because you'll have submitted your first batch of projects at the end of the first term. And the way I work with those ones is to basically just go through project by project and we can talk about what's worked, what hasn't worked, different ways of doing things, and sort of really get down into the detail. And I think, people find find those super helpful. So yeah, they're really good to come along to as many of those things as you can, because as I say, I think that's what really makes these diplomas extra special.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a really good overview. So you've got your group sessions with your mentors where you're in like a nice small group and you get to know the mentor, but you also get to know the other people in your group. And we started doing that. We actually did it the first year and then we did it a different way the second year. We went back to it because we realized that it was kind of the best way to do it. Is just really nice to get to know all your peers. Well, not all your peers, but a small group of your peers. So you can kind of make jewelry friends, as we say, and kind of see how they're doing and catch up with them. And like Ellen said, there's always more than one way to do something. Everything. And the great thing about learning from multiple jewelers at a time is you get exposed to different ways. And then you can choose, like, I don't like that way. I will like this way. And I'm going to kind of stick to this way. And there's never any judgment about that, which I think is really nice, that we all have different ways of reaching the same sort of outcome. And then, like Ellen said, there's the one-to-one sessions, and there's two different types of one-to-ones. There's the marking, and there's the, I call them midterms, which is just kind of like an open one-to-one session for anything. So we'll talk about all of those in a bit more detail in a minute. And I think what I'll do is just keep going around the different ones, because I think the mentoring is quite similar for all of them. So Vicky, this is your first year mentoring because it's the first year doing the silver metal clay diploma. Do you want to tell us just a bit about how that's been and what the groups have been like, and just give us a little bit of an insight into your mentoring?
Yeah, I mean, it's structured the same way that Ellen described in terms of the group Zoom calls, the individual one-to-ones, and we have a very lively Facebook group. And that's actually surprised me. The sense of community has been really strong in the metal clay diploma. Students from a wide variety of backgrounds, some straight off a silver diploma course, some who have never made jewellery before, and all coming together and sort of supporting each other, a little bit of camaraderie, troubleshooting, and just that sense of real support and community has actually really surprised me, because I've been a member of lots of Facebook groups before, but this is really lovely community. And when we get together in our group Zooms as well, that's really come through, that people feel comfortable enough to share anything really, or any problems that they've had, and then other people are coming in with solutions, and it's really been lovely to see that grow and develop through the terms. So that's been wonderful. And of course, you know, with metal clay, because it's so versatile, we do have a wide range of skills that could be used in a toolkit, a wide range of skills. And it's really nice to see people trying different things, not being afraid to experiment with the clay, which I think is what makes metal clay so exciting, is the versatility and the fact that you can really have a good play with it. So, you know, that's been really nice as well, and seeing people's confidence grow through the terms is fantastic. So
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's always nice to hear kind of how the groups are coming together and what people are getting from it as well. Because I think to begin with, I thought, is talking about jewelry that useful? Surely it's just making it. But I think we are, especially when we're learning so much, we need time to process it and understand. And, you know, if you were in like a workshop or in a classroom environment, there's those little conversations that you would pick up on, even if you're not properly listening, where you're sort of like, oh, I didn't know that somebody else asked. When someone else asks a question, you think, oh, I want to know the answer to that too. So that kind of peer learning, I think, is so helpful as well. So awesome. Wonderful. And Anelia, do you want to tell us a bit about the advanced diploma? And you have mentored on the fine as well, haven't you? But let's focus on the advanced for now.
Yes.
So the advanced is slightly different, not hugely different in terms of the mentoring, but do you want to tell us a bit about your experience of mentoring on the advanced diploma?
Yeah, sure. So students on advanced diploma, they usually have quite a lot of experience in their hands, or they've completed 2 diplomas in Jewelers Academy, so they have like quite a solid set of skills to work with. And again, like Victoria and Ellen said, because they've been through through the courses of different years, people know each other very, very well. And, they are very supportive. They completely understand all the challenges that they go through. And that's what we always see at any Jewelers Academy classes, any diplomas. And I think that's so, so valuable, because you can't really learn if you're always worried, what other people gonna say, if you're gonna get criticized. It can be quite harsh in the industry. So it's really lovely to be in this environment where everyone is so understanding and supportive and, learning new skills. So for me, I see it's quite technical. We talk about a lot of, moments that is not very obvious straight away. And students working on more complex projects, with a lot more elements. We're building up on the techniques that you already know, but students work on quite a complex project. So it is challenging, and it's amazing to see their work. And students themselves, they're very surprised. They say, I can't believe I made it. It's always so exciting, so happy. Like I'm very happy to see their pieces, when I get them for marking. It's really great for me to, to be able to hold them and, to make some suggestions if I can make any, because usually, students are really good at what they're doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, brilliant. And I think, on the advanced diploma as well, it's very slightly different in the structure, in terms of, instead of the fortnightly groups, there's sessions for every project from the tutor who teaches that class, because it gets more advanced. There aren't that many mentors who could do all of the things in the advanced diploma, because they're different things. Some of them are really technical stone setting. Some of them are really advanced kind of layered projects. Anelia's got loads of awesome projects in there as well. So there's a bit more of a team mentoring in that in the group as well, which is really nice. And it's appropriate at that time, I suppose, to have that. So it's been nice to see how they kind of progress, but very, very similar in terms of structure. Awesome. Thank you guys for the overview. So what would you say is your favorite thing about mentoring? And I'll come to Ellen first.
I
haven't told them what I'm going to ask them, so I'm putting it on the spot. But you guys.
I think for me, it's just the journey people go on and seeing people's confidence grow. I think it's just unbelievable. I've always said, this is my third year of mentoring on the diploma, and I always say to people, it's not about where you start. Some people will have made jewelry before. Some people may never have picked up a saw or a blowtorch or anything, but it's your approach to how you approach the course that makes the real difference. And I think if you're open-minded, you're there to learn, you're happy to make mistakes, you're there to kind of share and listen and all the rest of it. I think that's what makes a difference. And I think quite often people can't really believe where they've come from. They look back at those projects that they did in the first few weeks, and then suddenly they're setting a beautiful engagement ring, or set of stacking rings, or doing some incredible granulation, or it really is, it's a very steep learning curve, but I think it's really rewarding seeing people go on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the same for all the diplomas, but especially probably the diploma in silver jewelry and the diploma in silver metal clay, because there are people starting who've never made any jewelry before, and we really welcome that as well. And it's interesting with the diploma in silver, because you can have been making jewelry for a few years and get so much from it, and you can have never made jewelry before and get so much from it. And it's quite unusual in that way, I think, because we start at the beginning and it's incremental learning. So that's why I think a lot of people say they can't believe what they've done, because it's step by step, and each week it gets a little bit harder, and it's building on what you've done before. So I think that's a really good point. And very rewarding to watch the growth. And there's ups and downs, of course. It's not all plain sailing. But yeah, we can talk more about some of the challenges in a bit as well. So Vicky, what's your favorite part about mentoring?
So far, at the end of term one, when I had each individual student's body of work in front of me and looking at it and the pieces, you can really see a picture of how their confidence has grown, how their skill and techniques have grown, how their signature style has developed, and that they've got a real artist's voice, and that's really lovely. And I've had some students this last term who hadn't even touched metal clay before, and were saying to me, "I'm completely overwhelmed. I can't do this." And I was saying to them, just take it step by step, break it down, and at the end of the term, seeing what they've done and how much work they've literally poured their heart and soul into these pieces, and they've overcome those confidence issues, and they're producing beautiful, beautiful work. It's just a lovely thing to see, and that's my absolute favorite about it.
Yeah,
seeing that journey. Yeah.
It's amazing to have the work in front of you, especially when you've been working online together in quite an intimate space, talking sometimes every day in the Facebook group, especially when you see someone do something and it's gone wrong and they're like, I have to walk away. It's just, this is like, I've tried to solder this 8 times and I'm going to throw it in the bin, and then they make it again or whatever. And then you finally see it in front of you. I think that's quite an amazing, because obviously we don't get to see your work until the marking. And there are 3 marking sessions a year, so it's quite regular. But I think that's, a really special moment for the mentors and for the students. But it can be quite nerve-wracking sometimes for the students. It doesn't need to be, but I think we naturally, there's a natural kind of want to do well and want to please. And I think a really nice thing about the marking is it's never to make you feel judged or feel like you're not good enough in any way, but it's always about saying what could be improved on for next time, because even pieces that I've made like 8 times, there's always an improvement. And I think we see this as jewelers, like very rarely do we make a piece and we're like, there's absolutely nothing that could improve this ever, everything's perfect. So it's kind of just always that learning curve and that feedback of what's next, and the accountability as well, I think, of knowing someone is on the journey with you. So that's awesome. What about you, Anelia? What's your favorite thing about mentoring? You've been mentoring from the beginning of the diplomas. So yeah, what's been
I mean, the ladies, they covered all the nice points. It's exactly the same for me, for everyone. I enjoy to see, because I'm working with advanced diploma. I really enjoy to see the style of the students, because most of them, they already developed it by that time. And also I have quite a lot of mature students, so it's very interesting to see their personalities showing through their work. And it's so exciting to have their pieces for marking, because they have some degree of flexibility, and we encourage them on this diploma to express themselves, and to experiment a little bit more. So as long as their work is based on the lesson, on the technique, that's absolutely fine, and they can create something that is more relevant to them. And it's always very, very interesting, because sometimes they come up with very different ideas, and it's so exciting, because I know what the project is, I know what they're working on, but actually you're never sure what you're going to get back from the students. I love to see when they create something new and unexpected. And also, yes, sometimes it's a little bit more of a learning curve. It doesn't always go smoothly, but I always encourage students to go all the way and to finish the piece, because they're going to learn so much. I think that the thing about advanced diploma is the combination of a lot of different techniques, right? So I think we have a lot more focus on stone setting, which is really amazing if you can do that, because stones really bring your jewelry to another dimension. And either you work with silver, clay, or just metal, it always adds like extra wonderful thing to your pieces. So we're gonna be learning there. The pieces that you're going to be making, you're going to be using claw sets, some rub overs, and actually any type of setting that you would like.
Nice. All the stone settings.
All the stone settings.
All the stone settings. Vicky, what about you? Are there any kind of standout techniques or projects for you in the metal clay diploma?
So I'm an embellishment girl. I love embellishments. Absolutely love them. They're all over my work. So for me, my favourite week was the embellishment week, where the students are learning to make little leaves, little flowers, granulations, dragonflies, bees, you name it. And basically designing a beautiful piece around that. We have lots of stone setting modules. We do fire in place CZs, as well as fancy bezels for stones that you later set after firing, because metal clay has to be fired, you see. So you create your piece from the metal clay, place it in the kiln, the clay burns off and the silver anneals to itself, creating your piece. So we set stones before firing and after firing. So we'd have those two techniques as well. So stone setting with embellishments is a big favourite of mine. The week we're currently on is making bespoke textures, which is another fun week. So, you know, the students are looking around them at all the different textures they can find, and putting that into their designs. That's really lovely. We've just finished making I mean, honestly, I could go on. I love them all, quite frankly. Every module that comes up, I think, fantastic. They're going to absolutely love this. And yeah, they learn so much every single week. So
yeah, it's quite hard. It's quite hard to pick a favorite. I think I was thinking about this earlier on, and I think it's, you know, everyone has their own techniques that they like. But I think what Jess said earlier is a good point, that although on all the diplomas you get to try out lots of techniques, the way they're structured means that you kind of build up to those, so that you're kind of learning all those more basic skills to begin with, and then you're kind of building on it and combining them. And certainly in the silver diploma, the first term is very much about those sort of technical skills, you know, getting your sawing sorted, getting your filing nice and straight, and getting your soldering where it should be. And then sort of from that we then go on to the more kind of complicated projects. But yeah, it's so hard to choose a favorite, isn't it? Because every week you think, oh, I love this one.
I think there was a question that came up about when do mentors get assigned? So Anna's been answering these in the chat, but just in case anyone doesn't see it or wants to know, and also how do they get assigned? So obviously all the mentors are amazing. So we assign them based on your availability and their availability. So what we do when you sign up for a diploma, not always straight away, but before the course starts in September, we will get you to fill out a form to say when you're usually available. So you might say, I'm usually available these evenings each week, or I'm only available on, you know, during the day, or I can only do weekends, or whatever. So we have lots of mentors, so they're available at different times, and then we'll match you based on that. And also time zones. If you're in other countries, we try and make sure. So the most important thing is that you can come along to the sessions as much as you possibly can. And in terms of when it's done, it's always done obviously before the course starts, usually a few weeks before. So you'll know well before. But like I said, all of our mentors are very experienced, not only as jewelers but also teachers, because you can be an amazing jeweler and not so great at the teaching. So we're really lucky that we have this awesome team of people who are passionate about sharing those skills as well. And the wonderful Barbara Yard is here. Barbara, welcome. Thank you for joining us. You are muted, but it also looks like
Hello. I'm just on the bus coming home from Sweden.
Oh, bless you. Okay, well, should we give you a bit more time to get back, or let us know when you're ready to?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine now, so I'm literally near to where I am, so that's fine.
Okay, we'll give you a little bit of time, and then we'll be grilling you in a moment when there's less going on in the background. So you guys were talking about favorite projects. Did you do those? Because I didn't hear for a little bit, and you did favorite projects. Did you do most challenging projects yet?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Always a fun one. It's always a fun one. What would you say? We like to represent all the truth. What would you say was the most challenging project on each of your diplomas? Maybe again, Ellen, you can kick us off, or the one that students, generally experiences.
Yes,
Or
don't feel, if you're doing the diploma in silver, don't feel, when you get to these weeks, don't panic and think, oh God, I can't face it, because quite often people find it's interesting to see what people struggle with. I would say term one, it's the kite project. So that's where you're soldering copper and brass together into a square, but you've got lots of triangles all coming together. That's quite a challenging one. Term two, it tends to be the bangle or the trinket box, I think. And term three, I'm not so sure actually with what the project from term three is, but I think the thing that's really interesting is that it's not the same for everybody, and quite often, if people maybe haven't started their week straight away, they might be lagging behind slightly, and they might have seen people maybe post in the Facebook group or talk in the Q&As about something, and then actually when they give it a go, they turns out they love it. So I've had quite a few people who, we talked about the Bangle project and how it was quite complicated, and they really liked it. So everyone's different.
It's interesting because we used to run a version of the Diploma in Silver Jewellery at the London Jewellery School. It's changed and evolved since then, but so students came in every week, and so we'd obviously hear very clearly what they liked and didn't like. And I remember when I used to do marking on it, and what I loved was that because it covers so many different areas, it's almost like a foundation in all different types of jewellery making, is that people really find their thing and also really find what's not their thing. So, for example, wax, some people would be like, I love wax. This is like what I want to do forever. Like, this is my jam. And then other people would be like, I never want to do that again. I learned that was not something I want to do. I don't like subtractive kind of design. I like building up. And I think that's so useful when you're trying to discover yourself as a designer, especially in your first year or two. And you get exposed to loads of different mediums and types of jewelry making. So you can start to hopefully you love it all, but also hopefully you don't love all of it, because you won't be able to do all of it all of the time. And as we grow as designers, we kind of want to find our thing and really kind of develop more in a niche usually. So we used to have things like resin and enamel, and some people were like, hate the resin, love the resin, hate the enamel, love the enamel. So it's really interesting to watch people develop in their preferences as well through the mentoring process. Vicky, what's some of the most challenging bits that's come up so far in the silver metal clay diploma?
So at the end of module 1, we had fancy bezels and prongs. So it was the last module. So obviously it's going to be more challenging than the previous ones. And what we were introducing was quite a new technique. So with the fancy bezels, you're firing the metal clay back plate, and then you're adding a fancy bezel using metal clay paste. So I think previously the students were connecting, were adding greenware to greenware. So that's metal clay before it's been fired, which is a really nice strong connection, and you've got it. When you're adding fired silver to silver and you're using paste, the connection isn't quite as strong. And I think that kind of threw some of the students, and it's a tricky technique. So there was that, and then there was also prongs, where you're adding tiny prongs to the back plate so that you can then basically fire in place the CZ, and the prongs obviously sit around it. They're quite small, and it's quite fragile when you're connecting that. So I think a lot of the students were kind of like, oh no, this is really difficult, this is really tricky, it's so hard. But you know what? They worked through it. They worked through it together. They supported each other. And when the pieces came in at the end of the term, they were great. And it was a case of saying, you know what, this is the first time you've done it. It's really tricky. It's not going to be perfect, because it takes time to develop these skills. And when we're marking, we take that into account as well. So, the pieces that they actually produced were fantastic. They were amazing. And some of them really, really worked hard at it and got the technique down really well. But because it was a new technique and it is tricky, that was, I think, the trickiest week so far, the most challenging.
Yeah, I remember filming that class. It was a lot of fun. But I think,
Yeah.
there's an interesting point, which is, and this has come up before when we've talked about the diplomas, like if you could do every week perfectly the first time, it probably means you're not on the right course. If it's all just, oh, I just need some instructions and off I go and I'm done, then it's sort of, I mean, that's fine. But I think it's always good to challenge yourself. And I always prefer my students to challenge themselves too much and then go back and then say, okay, well, let's try something a bit simpler and build up to that, then always under challenge ourselves and sort of not really grow, in the way that we can do. So that's why I ask about the most challenging weeks as well, because I actually think sometimes they're the best for us. So for example, the kite project that Ellen talked about, we knew when we were putting that in the diploma that was going to be a real challenge for people, especially who are new to jewelry making. But it's the kind of thing that if you were back in the olden days when there used to be like jewelers apprentices and things, if you were sat next to an apprentice, it's one of the tasks they would give you until you cried and did it 8 times and got it right. And obviously we hope that you don't need to cry, although it's okay and you do. But it's kind of like building up muscles, I feel like, so that when you go to make some of the other pieces, it's like, this is really easy now because I've done something so challenging, overcame it. And it's almost building like trust with yourself that you can do hard things, you can learn, you can develop, you can grow, and you do have the patience to get it all wrong, throw it at the wall, come back later, do it again. And I think that's really part of the journey of becoming a jeweler as well. Wonderful. And Anelia, what about you? What do you think is the most challenging project for the students in the advanced diploma?
I can think of a couple. So one of them is a kinetic jewelry project, which is a lovely lotus pendant with some moving parts. And the other one was pave setting and eternity ring setting, because a lot of students, they found it quite challenging. So talking about the kinetic jewelry project is already based on the basic techniques like piercing, soldering, riveting, a little bit of claw setting. I think the challenge here is that it has so many different elements that you have to really pay attention to every single one of them to make it look pretty in the end, because you can see it from different angles, and it's really testing, the skills that you already have. And I think the results are really amazing. And this year, some students, they were experimenting even with different stone shapes, which is very exciting, very exciting to see. And when we talk about stone settings, I think a lot of students, they're very scared in the beginning simply because they have never done it before, and it looks so advanced, it looks so amazing when you have all those stones together in the ring or in the pendant. But of course, we have like a lovely instructional videos. When it comes to this setting, it's all about marking, being very precise, and about a lot of practice. So I always tell my students not to worry if things didn't work out straight away, especially with something like stones. It's so specialist that you really have to do it many, many times for it to work. And obviously, some students, they get it like from the first time, but it's quite rare. For most of people, you have to practice to make it look amazing, and they do it. The students do amazing work with stone setting. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, really cool. Brilliant. And Barbara Yard is here and she's home. Welcome, Barbara. Do come unmute and say hi. Thank you for, coming after your long day.
Hello, everybody. That's all right. Hello, how is everybody? Hi, Anelia.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, lovely to see you.
So, Barbara, tell us a bit about the Fine Jewelry Diploma, because that's the diploma you're representing. Now, obviously, the structure of the mentoring is the same, but maybe you could tell us a bit about your experience of mentoring. Some of the things we've covered are like what you enjoy about it, what are some of the best projects and the most challenging projects. So you can choose where you want to start, but just tell us a bit about Fine.
I'll start with the most challenging, and I always find the most challenging is the clustering, but it's the most challenging because they look at it, they've not done it yet, they look at it and they panic. But then I always say to them, you've got to remember that you've done all of this. We've now just taken all the elements you've done and put it in one thing. And then you can see them all relax and go, oh, okay. And when most of them do it, they do some really, really spectacular jobs. And I think they need to just, a lot of them panic. And it's the same with the tennis bracelet. They panic because it's such a technical thing. They have a little mini panic. But then when they do it, it's like you can see them all just go, oh, sort of thing. And I think that's a lot with a lot of the things with the fine jewelry, and the locket is the same as well. People panic. But I think the thing that people like the best is the claw set earrings. And the totem pendant. People find the totem pendant hard, but they like it, and I think they like the end results of it as well. Yeah.
Very rewarding kind of project.
Yes, it is definitely so. Yes, because they're using gold, and I think some of them are using gold for the first time, and they think, "Oh, I like this now," and they start talking to you about their final project, incorporating this and that in their final project. Just because they've used the gold and they've realized, actually, I can do this. If I sit and practice, I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Wonderful. And something else I wanted to ask you guys, which I know everyone hates doing, but I want you to try and do it, which is like bigging up yourselves, basically. So because you are the mentors, you're the people that we're going to be learning from, and I should really do it for you. But just tell us a bit about yourself and your experience. And I know that's really hard for jewelers. And don't be humble, please. Try not to be too humble. Ellen, I'm going to force you first. I know you can do it.
So jewelry for me has really been a second career. I always loved making stuff, as I'm sure many people did as a kid, and I kind of wanted to be a jeweler, but I actually didn't really understand what that meant. I didn't know anyone who was a jeweler, and I didn't have the faintest idea how you might go about doing it. So kind of went in a different direction, went to university and did other stuff. But I then started making jewelry as a hobby at a local college, just as an evening class. And then when I had my first child, I decided I wasn't going to go back to work. I was going to go all in on the jewelry. So yeah, it's a slightly unusual route, I suppose, in that I haven't had a kind of formal training that obviously some of these other guys will have had. I did do a certificate course at the college, which was 1 day a week for a year, which was a really good grounding. And then other than that, I guess it's been short courses and kind of self-teaching, really. And yeah, 10 years ago, I set up my business and sort of worked part-time around my kids. And now I'm full-time making and teaching. Yeah. So
awesome. Yes. And what Ellen didn't say, she's got this amazing business, which she kind of mentioned, and she sells beautiful kind of a lot of geometric inspired jewelry, I would say, and one-off pieces, collections. She also sells in shops, and she's done fairs internationally, and definitely go and give her a follow. She's Ellen Horgan on Instagram. Is it Ellen Horgan or Ellen Horgan Jewelry?
Yeah, I think it's just at Ellen Horgan.
Yeah, Ellen Horgan. Awesome. So we'll put the link. I'm sure Anna's popped the link in the chat as well. So make sure you go and say hi. And and Ellen is obviously one of the wonderful mentors on the Silver Diploma. And Vicky, tell us a bit about your experience and what brought you to mentoring.
So I started metal clay just over a decade ago, and basically I saw a ring on the internet and I thought, oh, I'd love to make that. And it was a workshop done by the very talented Anna Maison. So off I went, having never touched metal clay before, not even opened a packet, and did this 3-day workshop because I wanted to make that specific ring. And there was a pendant as well. And I fell in love completely. And from that point, I said, I'm only going to make jewelry that I would wear. I'm not going to make anything else. And that's how I started out. And actually, that's kind of still what I do. I only make stuff that I would wear, that I love. But I kind of only make sort of one-of-a-kind pieces now, and almost all commissions. And I've had, I think the last 2 months have just been back-to-back commissions, which is absolutely lovely. And it's kind of word of mouth thing. I make something I really love, post it on social media, Facebook, and someone always contacts me and says, I love that. How much is it? Can you make me one similar? Something like that. So it's kind of just really nice. And I really, really enjoy it. My worst thing ever though is social media, posting on social media. I'm terrible at it, and my husband's always on at me, so you need to post more photos, more videos, people need to see this. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know, because I'm terrible at putting myself out there, always have been, and it's been a big challenge for me to do that. But yeah, that's how I started and what I do.
I think that's so relatable, Vicky. And I think what's really nice about the way you've built your business is it is very organic, and it sounds like you don't need to constantly post on social media because you've got a steady flow of people. And, we do talk in all the diplomas about starting and growing jewelry businesses. Oh, the dog's going, sorry. Oh, might have to see to him for a second. Getting a puppy is always an interesting choice. But yeah, I think it's really nice to kind of, see examples of how people are doing it in the industry. While I quickly see to the puppy, Anelia, do you want to tell us a bit about your experience and how awesome you are?
Yeah, sure. I mean, where do I start? I've been working in jewelry industry for over 15 years, over 18 years, I think. So it's quite a long time, at different capacities. So first I started working after I finished university here, I started working for a silver wholesale company, and we were finishing castings, we were assembling pieces. It was still very interesting to me because it was my first ever experience, like in a real sort of workshop environment, and I learned a lot from that. And then as the time passed by, I worked in different workshops. I used to work in West End. I worked there for 5 years for one bespoke designer. She was creating amazing pieces. And then I worked in Hatton Garden for a few years in different places, in different workshops. So my specialty is mounter. I'm a mounter, but I also did a professional polishing in the industrial workshop. Wouldn't advise it to ladies. It's like a really hard workout in the gym, like every day. And currently I'm working in my own studio. I have my own studio. I mainly focus on bespoke commissions. I really enjoy working with Jewelers Academy, and we've been together with Jess like a few years now, because I was also teaching at London Jewelry School when they were in Hatton Garden, when it was a physical place. It was my first ever teaching experience. I absolutely enjoyed it, and so we kind of moved on. And now I'm mentoring like more advanced students, and and just happily practicing on my own, in my own space and my own time.
Love it, Anelia. And I think what's so nice, and hopefully you guys are starting to build up the picture, is just there's similarities between all the mentors, but we're also so different in terms of the different experiences people have. And I think one of the nice things is it doesn't matter where you've come from, what age you are, what your previous experience is. Some people have done degrees, some people haven't, some people have never done any anything like this before. Some people have worked in similar spaces, or perhaps have studied art, or something that is complementary, and it doesn't matter. We all find our own way and our own businesses and our own path that's right for us. And yeah, I always find that very inspiring and awesome. And last but not least, Barbara, tell us a bit about yourself and your experience and how you came to be a mentor.
I've been making jewelry for about 20 years now. After university, I met somebody at my final show who offered me a job, and I worked for her for a few years. Then I went off and worked for another jeweler who I kind of had met through other industry people at Goldsmiths Fair. And then I went and thought, you know what, I like doing this and I like working for people, but I felt I like working for myself more. So I have a studio and I make bespoke pieces. I do that. That's one of my main things. And working with Jess at the Jewelers Academy. And I was with Jess, same as Anelia, a physical Jewelers Academy from about 2018. So now I do the Jewelers Academy and I make pieces at my own studio as well.
Awesome. Yes. The dream team. We love it. We love you guys. But also I hope that, in these sessions you get to kind of feel some warmth from the mentors as well and see how approachable everyone is and what a friendly community it is. I think that's so important when you're learning something new. Some of my first jewelry classes, it was a long time ago and it wasn't particularly friendly. It's hard to imagine it now, but it was a very specific kind of person that was thought to make jewelry, and and I didn't feel very welcome. And everything's changed now, which is wonderful, and there's so many spaces that are welcoming. But I think it doesn't matter what experience people have, everyone's just learning from each other. And we always say there's no such thing as a silly question, and you can ask anything. And that's how we learn, I think, is by having the courage to sometimes ask something that we think we should already know. But the great thing about a learning environment is there's always room for more growth, and all of us are all learning kind of all of the time. So awesome. All right, I have a final question for you guys, and then I'll let everyone go. And this is just, what advice would you give to a student joining on any diploma, but specifically if it comes to mind, your diploma? So I know some people have signed up and they're already joining us in September. What advice would you give them? Maybe Ellen, you can kick us off again.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the obvious one is to not be afraid to make mistakes. I think, we touched on it earlier on. We're not aiming for perfection. If we were, then you'd be doing the wrong thing. There's no point signing up to a course and you can do every single element absolutely perfectly on it. Some people will find some things more challenging than others. And I think as long as you're open to making mistakes and learning from them, then you can't really go wrong. It can feel difficult and challenging, and I think there's inevitably you can compare yourself to other people. But everybody's starting from a different place. So I think it's really important just to kind of focus on what you're doing, and just kind of push yourself, I suppose, to do the best you can. But as I say, not kind of putting that pressure on that everything has to be completely perfect, otherwise you're kind of worthy. So yeah, I would just say don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that is genuinely where the learning happens.
Love that. Absolutely. Mistakes are welcome. Sometimes we say if you're not making a mistake at least once a week, then you're not doing it right. So that's always kind of a good thing to keep in mind. I feel like this is one of the questions that's going to get harder and harder as we go round, because people are going to take up all the good answers. But Vicky, have you got anything to add to that, or a different way of your perspective?
So my advice would be, when you join the course, is to come all the way in and sit all the way down. So in other words, immerse yourself in it as much as you can. Get as much as you can out of it. In terms of joining the Facebook page and posting if you can, posting your work, posting your successes, your failures, supporting other people. As mentors, we're on the Facebook page all the time, just checking in, giving advice, giving support. There's lots and lots of lively discussion, and students really, really benefit from it. Turn up to the 2 weekly Zooms and see, build up the community that way, and get to the one-to-ones, and really, do as much as you can to get as much as you can from the experience. And because, you can see how from the growth and the progression that people are learning huge amounts, and it's from the community and showing up to these things. So that's my advice, would be to get as much as you can from it.
Love that. Yes, I've definitely noticed that as well. Like the people who really like kind of engage and come to the sessions. I mean, you can learn at any rate, and everyone's personal circumstance is different. Not everyone can manage the same amount in the year, but they definitely get so much out of it. And yeah, and those connections and all the learning that you spoke about. So awesome. Well, let's keep the order. Why change it now? And Anelia, what about you? What advice would you give to someone starting the advanced diploma in?
Yeah, sure. For advanced diploma, I would definitely say it's like time management, because the projects they're taking longer. It's a fewer projects, but you have to work longer on each and every one of them. So you can't really leave it till the last 3 days and think that you're going to finish this piece in those days and then submit it to me. So yeah, you have to really plan it. And I know we all get busy, and we've got other things, we've got jobs, we've got families, but still try to do your best, because that will save you a lot of stress in the end. And obviously, if you do run out of time, or something didn't work out from the first attempt, and you don't have the opportunity to remake it, just please send it in anyway, because as a mentors, we might be able to make some useful suggestions when we see your piece, even if it's not finished, even if it's in process. And that's the value of it. And like Jess mentioned before, in terms of marking, yes, you do get some marks, but the real essence of it is to get the feedback from us, from your mentors, from your tutors, and to give you like something useful, information and useful points to work from. So please don't worry, and just to try your best, try to do things on time, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, it'll all be fine in the end.
It will be fine, yes.
Yeah. And we all learn in different ways. There's always some crammers, but you're right, you can't cram like all the projects from a term, especially in the advanced diploma, right at the end, because that's going to be very stressful.
Yeah, and the other thing is, quite often, actually, I noticed in the different diplomas, that students, they decide to leave their work to be polished at the very end, like all of it. Big mistake. It's all
polish as you go.
Yeah.
Polish as you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Anelia. See, we're getting wisdom here from previous students. You're learning from their potential mistakes. And Barbara, what about you? What are your thoughts on this one? What advice would you give to somebody starting the FINE diploma in September?
I say the FINE diploma, we show you the traditional techniques, but I've noticed a lot of people will take those traditional techniques and unpick it and do it another way, especially with tennis bracelet. I found that people said, oh, what if I try this way? Or what if I try that way? And I find the FINE diploma makes people really think outside the box, because they will look at something and go, why don't I try it that way? Or why don't I try it that way? And I think that's what jewelry is. Jewelry is thinking, with jewelry, there's always not a problem, but a way you have to work around things. It's never straightforward. And I find with the FINE diploma, a lot of the students will be looking at things, and they're really good at thinking outside the box. And I think that's what the FINE diploma offers people. They don't go in a straight line. They'll go all over and squiggly and find their own place for things. And I say, just because I've done it that way, you might find another way that works. If it works, stick with it. And a lot of them are like that, and they're all quite happy to be and do that sort of thing, because they'll say to me things like, "Oh, I didn't do it like that. I found out that one." I'm like, "Great! If that way works for you, write it down. Remember it for next time." So that's what I like about it, and I think that's what is a good thing about the time diploma.
That makes a lot of sense actually, because I feel like in the silver, because it's their first year or couple of years in making, they need to follow everything because everything's new. So we need very specific instructions. But then as you start to go into the next year of training, it's like you're feeling a bit more confident, a bit more comfortable with your own decisions, your own choices. And yeah, as you're presented with things, you might try it one way and then think, but I did another project this way, so maybe I want to try it this way. And yeah, it all comes down to that kind of developing ourselves as designers, because the end result that we all want and that we're all kind of aiming towards is to have our own independence, that we can make whatever we want to make, however we want to make it, for whoever we want to make it. And that's going to look a little bit different for every single person on every single diploma. But yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming and sharing a bit about your experiences. It's been lovely. And thank you guys also coming and listening. And hopefully, if you're joining us in September, hopefully you're a little bit more excited than you already were. We obviously can't wait to get learning together. I know it sounds like a long way away, but it will come very quickly, especially once the summer comes and we're kind of, moving towards a new term. And I know some of you guys are already on a diploma, so please keep enjoying that one and don't worry too much about the next one. It's all going to happen in good time. And anyone thinking about signing up, we would absolutely love to have you. We do recommend signing up as early as possible because spaces are limited on each of them, and there are sort of deadlines for toolkits and various things like that. And we just want to get you sorted in time. There's also payment plans to spread the costs and all those good things. So Anna's put all the links in the chat, but if you have any questions, you can always drop us an email to jessica@jewelersacademy.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, or contact@jewelersacademy.com. There's a whole crew of us there ready to answer your questions. So brilliant. All right, lovely to see you guys. Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.